PMP exam will test your ability on how to handle change requests, and I expect at least 5 to 6 questions about how to handle the changes with a proper change control process. So changes are inevitable in any project, whether it's shift in requirements, let's say technology budget or stakeholder expectation. How we handle change requests determine the project success. In this session, we'll explore the formal change control process, discuss strategies to prevent uncontrolled scope creep, and learn how to maintain stakeholder alignment with when managing changes. To start by understanding exactly what is change request. So change request can originate from stakeholder or project teams or external factors. It can be considered as a formal proposal to modify the project, or we call it as a CR. So CR is the change request. Again, it's the formal proposal to modify or change the project. CRs can affect the scope, the schedule, the cost, the quality, the resources. So proper evaluation ensures that only necessary and beneficial changes are implemented. For example, in a construction project, if a client wants to add an extra floors to a building after construction has begun, this requires a formal scope change request. And without a proper process, changes like this could delay the project, crop this, creep the scope, increase the costs, or introduce risks. Let's now look at the change control process. The change control process follows a structured step-by-step approach. First, you identify and document the change. Then you analyze the impact on scope, costs, risks, or let's say the overall project constraints. So you need to ensure that your impact analysis are touching all of these, let's say, aspect of the project. After you analyze the impact, you need to submit the change request for review and approval by the Change Control Board or the CCB. In case if the project got approved or the change request is approved or rejected, you need to update the project document and communicate the changes, whether it's approved or not. For example, in a software development project, if a customer requests an additional security feature after the project has started, the team must document the request in a change request form, then analyze the impact on development time, budget, existing features, sources. After that, after they analyze the impact, submit it for approval to the Change Control Board. If approved, update the project schedule and communicate the change to the team. Again, if it's not approved, then you also need to, let's say, to communicate the same with the stakeholders who has requested that change. Now let's look into the common types of change requests. So changes fall into 4 different categories: corrective actions, preventive actions, defect repairs, and enhancements. The corrective action, it addresses the deviation from the plan. When it comes to preventive action, it reduces potential future risks. Defect repair, it's used to, let's say, fix issues in any of these deliverables where it was delivered during the project execution. Enhancement is to improve the project output beyond the initial scope. So these are the common types of change requests. For example, in a manufacturing project, if a production defect is found, a defect repair request may be submitted to modify the design. Alternatively, if a risk identified where a component may fail in extreme temperature, a preventive action or a preventive change request to prevent the, let's say, this failure due to the extreme temperature, it can be made to use more durable materials. Scope creep and how to manage it. Scope creep happens when changes are added informally without a proper evaluation. Also, it refers to uncontrolled changes without proper approvals. The causes of scope creep is like stakeholder requests and not documenting these requests or not formally, let's say, assessing the impact on the project and adding these requests to the project without a control. Also, poor requirements management and lack of change control. Preventing scope creep requires a strict adherence to the change control process. For example, in an IT project, a client may repeatedly ask for a new software features without updating the contract. Over the time, this delays the delivery, increases the workload, and strains the resources. And to prevent the scope creep in this scenario, ensure that all changes go through the formal approval processes, maintain clear documentation of the project scope and baseline, educate the stakeholder on the impact of these scope changes and the overall project constraints. The role of change control of the CCB and managing changes. So the change control board of the CCB ensures that only valuable and beneficial changes are approved. The CCB or the change control board duty is to review, approve, or reject change requests. The members can include the project managers, the stakeholders, and the technical experts. Decision are can be made to approve or to reject these changes can happen based on the impact analysis, the feasibility, and strategic alignment. Here are the tools to manage the change requests. So, using structured tool improve the efficiency in handling change requests. You can use change request logs to track all of the submitted requests, including the rejected and approved one. Also, the impact analysis report to assess the change request on the overall project constraints to help you assess the visibility of that change. Also, the project management software to automate tracking and approvals. How to communicate change requests to stakeholders. So, stakeholder communication is crucial in change management. Regular updates ensures the alignment with the stakeholder expectation. Also, you may use meetings, report, and dashboards to ensure the transparency when reporting. Address the concerns and resistance proactively. It's very important to educate the stakeholders about these changes, how it has to be handled, and with its impact, as we said, on the overall project constraints. So, the stakeholders must understand the change control process. You need to understand the process itself by making them uh, let's say aware that not all of these not all of the change requests might be approved or rejected based on the change control board and decisions. For example, let's say in a government infrastructure project, if a road design changes due environmental regulations, early communication with the affected communities help manage the expectation and to reduce the resistance. The challenges in managing change requests. So one major challenge here is stakeholder conflict when change benefits one group but affects the other. Also, we have delays in approval. Sometimes the change control board might be involved at different projects. Maybe they have different priorities, different, you know, let's say action items to take care of. And then that might delay the approval of that change request, leading to project disruptions. Also, conflicts among the stakeholders over the scope changes. So, as I mentioned, some of these, let's say, changes might benefit a stakeholder and might impact or negatively impact the other stakeholders. So you need to be, let's say, diplomatic when communicating these changes with the stakeholders, making sure that they understand the broader benefit of that change in terms of alignment with the project goals. The last challenge here is the budget overruns due the changes. So when you do too many changes, the scope increases, and once the scope increases, you need to expect that there will be more needed resources to work on the new scope or the modified scope, and that might cause, let's say, budget overruns, um, which requires to spend more to meet the new scope requirements or specifications. For example, here, let's say in a software development, marketing may request a new user interface enhancement, while engineers worry about delay testing. So, aligning the stakeholder priorities through compromising and impact analysis help to resolve such conflicts. Summarize our session on how to handle the change requests and execution in a more effective way. Change request management ensures that only necessary and beneficial changes are implemented. By following a structured approval processes, managing scope creep, and keeping the stakeholder informed, we can ensure a smooth project execution without unnecessary disruption.